Thank you so much for joining us for the Big Time Talker podcast. We're live in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And all this noise that you hear around us, that's because we're in the Glass Enclosed Nerve Center, the podcast pavilion at the American Library Association's annual conference. There are tens of thousands of book people here. Not only librarians, and they're the crazy ones, by the way. They're the ones they have security for, but also the authors, the illustrators, the agents, the publishers, the people that make the book business are all here in Philadelphia this weekend. And we're broadcasting thanks to the help of Headline Books and their Zoom into Books program, along with SpeakerMatch.com. And, we are the Big Time Talker podcast, so we love to talk to big-time people with big-time ideas. And joining us today on the show, a big-time award-winning author. Nancy Hughes is here. Her 8th mystery novel, The Point of the Bodkin, is available now. Congratulations on being an award winner.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So this all happened last night, right?
That was for the previous book, for the By Rook and By Crook. That's what the award was for last night. This is the sequel. The Point of the Bodkin is the sequel to that book.
So you've got these 8 books, and you talked about this one being a sequel. Are they all standalone mystery novels?
Even though several of them are series, parts of series, I work very hard at making sure they stand alone. It's not fair to authors, I don't think, to have to buy the next one to find out what happens. So they all stand alone, and they can be read out of order.
Nancy A. Hughes is the guest that we're talking about. She's a big-time award-winning author, and you can visit her online at hughesscribe.com and find out all about all of her books. So you won the Indie Book Award for the 7th book last night. The new one is available now?
Yes, it's available right now. We're celebrating the release of By Rook or By Crook right now. No,
That's
I said
the last
that wrong.
One, right?
Yeah.
You're still at the award ceremony for last night,
That's
and I
right.
don't blame you.
It's The Point of the Bodkin is the new book.
So what got you? You seem like a very nice lady. You seem very sedate, very normal. What got you into writing these mystery novels where bad things happen in the still of the night?
Yeah. I have been a fan of mysteries since my first Nancy Drew,
Wow.
but I've always been fascinated with puzzles and putting things together of how could that have happened. And I blame it on my parents, who brought me from Key West, Florida when I was 2 years old, and I haven't been warned since. So as I was walking to school and walking around the Penn State campus and so on in bitter cold weather, I would make up stories and mysteries in my mind to distract myself so I could get from point A to point B, which is a dumb way to start, especially for somebody who was a business writer. But
Oh, that's what you did for a living. You were a business writer for many years.
I followed that for quite a few years, and I had my own public relations business for 10 years. And then I worked for a bank for 5 years. And then I put a big red lipstick kiss on the back of my son's last tuition payment to Ohio State. I resigned my job, and I drafted my first novel.
That seems like a really gutsy thing to do. To give up, you get multiple successful careers and to become a novelist. Was that a big leap of faith for you?
Actually, no, because it only takes about 2 years for me to get bored with a job, and maybe into 3. But with my own business, I'd accomplished everything I wanted to. And with writing a mystery, everyone is new.
Right.
There's a new story, new turns and twists, new research to do. And as a former journalist, sweating the details was the most fun.
So you like the research part?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You have to do that, or your readers will catch it. If you have to shoot somebody, you better have the right gun or the right poison, or because somebody will find out.
They'll call you out, right?
They'll call you out, yeah.
Who's your first reader? Once you finish a book, you've actually given birth to this thing. Do you have, what do they call it, beta readers? Is that the...
Actually, I don't. I probably should, but my husband Bill is my big time first reader, and he'll catch anything that doesn't make sense. But I don't work with a group. I live in the middle of nowhere, and I wasn't able to really find a group, which is how I ended up joining the Mystery Writers of America and taking the bus that we used to have into Manhattan for once a month for Mystery Writers meetings, and learning from the experts at these meetings of the craft, of learning the craft.
Because it is a craft. It's a whole very specific kind of writing style, right?
Yes. There are over 25 subgenres of crime fiction, and mine is somewhere in the middle. At one end, there's cozies, and at the other end, there's horror and everything in between. My books are amateur sleuth, an individual or individuals who are put in the middle of a terrible situation and have no recourse but to solve the crime themselves.
Amateur sleuth is its own subgenre.
Yes, it's somewhere in the middle of the 25 or so.
Who's your target reader? Who do you want to read the books? I'm sure everyone, but who do you see on the other end? If you visualize somebody at the beach right now with their toes in the sand, a pina colada in your book, who is that person?
Actually, I see somebody sitting by the fireplace with a tea or a mixed drink or something. But seriously, my readers range in age from about 12 to 90, and so I keep them in mind. And this is from feedback that I've had from my readers. So even though it's crime fiction and there is blood and guts and everything that goes with that, these are not cozies. I still do not have gratuitous sex or violence, and I watch my language. And nobody will miss the F word or anything else that people of any age might object to.
Right.
But those are my readers. It's pretty broad-based.
What do your readers tell you when you meet them? Because that's got to be very gratifying as an author. What do they say to you about your books?
What they like most is the characters. And then the plot comes next. And that was kind of a surprise because I thought when I wrote my first book that it would be the other way around. But I've heard people say that they wish that they knew somebody like that, or they feel that the 5-year-old in one book is standing right beside their chair, and they can feel the characters. So
I would buy into that. I think if you don't identify with a character, or you don't go, I know someone just like that, the character is so important.
One thing I'm not big on is describing scenery. Everybody knows what the sky looks like, the clouds, the mountains, and so on. So unless the place is a character, I let people fill in the blanks, and I really don't describe the characters themselves in vivid detail, except to say that a character, like in The Point of the Bodkin, there's a character that I say that my protagonist thinks he looks like Walter Brimley or somebody like that, or maybe even Andy Reid, just to sort of put the idea in their head of what this natty accountant looks like.
You mentioned as a kid reading Nancy Drew. I read Hardy Boys mysteries when I was a kid. Who do you read now? Who are the mystery writers that you go, man, they're good?
I am all over the planet with that. I'm a very big fan of Jeffrey Deaver.
Yeah, sure.
He's a wonderful writer, and I miss the author who wrote the Alphabet series. A is for alibi, and B is for burglar, and so on.
Yeah. Janet Ivanovich? Yeah.
No, she wrote. Yeah, I like Janet too very much. She's funny. She's hilarious, and her books are so good.
How important is it to be a reader if you're a writer?
I have to be careful when I'm writing what I'm reading, because maybe based on my business writing in the past, where I was writing things for the president or the CEO of the company or whatever, I had to sound like them, what he might or she might say. So I'm a good mimic. So I have to be careful.
Gotta watch that.
So I'll read nonfiction when I'm writing.
Nancy Hughes is our guest today. She's got a brand new book called The Point of the Bodkin. Her previous novel just picked up an Indie Book Award last night here at the American Library Association conference. When you sit down to write, let's talk about the craft of writing for a minute. Some writers that are prolific, as are you, where you've cranked these out sort of once a year, they will sit down with a goal in mind. I'm going to write 2,000 words, or I'm not going to get up, or I'm going to sit at the laptop for an hour and I'm not going to get up. And then there are other writers, it's all about the inspiration. I'm only going to write whenever inspiration hits me. Where do you fall into that?
I'm a very focused writer. When I sit down at my Mac, the rest of the world disappears, and I am there until my legs and feet are asleep and I'm starving and everything. I hate to put it aside. And I don't, but if on the other hand, if I thought I had to write 5 hours a day or for so many days, I wouldn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I'm an outliner.
Okay.
I'm not a pantser. I know where my books are going, and it's all I can do not to just dig into it, but I have to just write a very, very simple outline and then follow through with it and not skip around and do this scene or that scene because that gets me off track.
So when you start, you begin with the end in mind. You know how this thing's going to wrap up.
I know where the book is going. My fourth book, I guess it was, about the kidnapping of an infant. I woke up one Saturday morning with the book in 10 points in my mind. Now, I wrote them down, but I had to wait about a year until I could dig into it. But I do know where it's going.
Nancy Hughes is our guest. You mentioned one of your past lives that you were a journalist.
Yes.
Now, that's a whole different skill set than your work as a business writer, and certainly your work as a novelist. But did it help you in any way, being a journalist, you think?
It helped me in that I needed to be correct with the details. But right out of the gate, I needed to unlearn some habits.
Like what?
Well, when you're a journalist, you have to get this, you write in an inverted triangle. And you have to get the who, what, why, where, when, and how out right away.
Right. They say in the first paragraph, right?
Yes, because that dates back to the day where they literally cut with scissors to fit. And so you had to get all the important stuff done right away. I'm trying to think how I actually do that. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I had to learn my characters need to present themselves as you would real people.
Right.
So you don't put all that out front, but still the story has to start fast. So that it usually starts with action, not with characters.
Because that hooks the reader in, right?
Yes, That's what you have to do.
So Nancy, when you sit down and you write these things, you talked about the one book where you woke up on Saturday morning, you basically had the outline in your head.
Yeah.
Do you consume news broadcasts or magazines? Where do the ideas come from for the plots?
That's always an interesting question. And my joke is I'd pay somebody big bucks to come up with a really smooth answer to that. But I think we come out of the womb with a blank slate, and our lives are a function of everything we've learned, every person we've met, all the things that are swarming around us. So it's hard to say where something comes from. Or maybe I hear something or think something, and then I think, well, what if? And what's suppose? And it comes from there. But the stories pretty much come to me the way I want to. And I also at the same time have to think, where did that come from? Is it similar to something I've already read or somebody else has written? So
do you see, since you have that journalism background, at some point in the future writing a nonfiction book like John Grisham wrote all those legal thrillers, and then he did a couple of nonfiction stories still in the legal realm? Do you ever see yourself doing one of those?
Initially, I thought I would never write a book until I had something to say.
Okay.
And that meant something in the nonfiction line. So when I quit the job at the bank, I thought I will write a memoir of of all the funny, amazing things that happened. And I made a list of 30 different things and bored myself to death. And I thought, I am not interested in writing this. And I've learned since that memoirs are not are only interesting to the people to whom the writer is engaged, unless it's something, unless I land a plane in the river
Hudson,
or something, or something like that. Yeah.
So no nonfiction books in your future. You think you're going to live in that mystery world?
I think I will. I can't. I want to write a memoir about my mother, but that's just family. That's just family stuff. But
A friends and family thing.
Friends and family thing. But I have a long list of ideas that I would love to tear into. One thing I did learn, sort of from the side somewhere, is that a series can get to the point, to an end point. So my first two books, well, number 1 and number 5, that's all there is of those two books. Then there's 4 books that are a series. And I've sort of run that out to the end. Now I have these 2 books, and I don't know if there's a third one there. So I see myself going in the standalone vein.
And if someone's listening now, they're not familiar with your books, who should they compare your books to? If I like A, I'll also like Nancy Hughes.
Somebody here was talking about that very thing, and I don't know. I would love to think that the Trust series, this a matter of trust and redeeming trust. They're on my website. I would love to think that they would compare me to Linda Castillo, but I'm just a big fan of hers, and she writes wonderful long series. But the Amish country scene and the type of people that live there and those circumstances. But I wrote the books, that series, before I launched into hers. But I think she's a wonderful writer.
Well, clearly people think you're a wonderful writer too. You're an Indie Book Award winner. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And you have a brand new book called The Point of the Bodkin. It's available now. You can check her out at hughesscribe.com, hughesscribe.com. Books are available at bookstores everywhere, amazon.com.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
If I show up as a character in one of your novels, I hope you don't kill me off in the first chapter.
Not in the first chapter.
She makes no promises. That's Nancy Hughes, our guest today on the Big Time Talker podcast. Hey, we have new episodes every Tuesday. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast entertainment. Thank you to our masterful show producer, Joseph, and also thank you to award-winning writer and our guest today, Nancy Hughes, for being here. From the American Library Association's big conference in Philadelphia, we're here in the Podcast Pavilion. I'm Burke Allen. Now go out and make it a great day. Bye, everybody.